Assalamu alaikum. Nice to see you again. How are things?
Walaikum salam. Things are good. I hope you had a chance to reflect on what we talked about yesterday.
Indeed, I did. And now I have some more questions, which I hope you don't mind answering.
No problem at all. Where do we start?
You mentioned that Allah can give non prophets knowledge of the unseen. What about our Imams? I get it that there are no verses of the Quran directly about them getting such knowledge, but what about the Hadith? Do any of them come to top of mind that speak about this?
Actually, if we look through like a book like Najul Balagha, which are the sermons of Imam Ali, peace be upon him, we see that there are at least four sermons in which the Imam spoke about him being taught from the hidden realm. Now, keep in mind that Imam Ali clearly said in these sermons that what he knew was not necessarily knowledge of the unseen, but rather that this was knowledge which the Prophet Muhammad had been given from Allah, in which he in turn taught to Imam Ali.
That's not very clear to me. Can you please expand on that?
Sure. So what I mean to say is that the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, our 12 Imams, they have access to knowledge of the unseen. However, this is something either taught to them by the Prophet directly or is granted to them by Allah if and when they need to have access to it. We do not believe that the Imams receive wahi or revelation, right? Because we believe that revelation stopped with the Prophet of Islam and the Quran. And so basically, we believe that they are given knowledge from Allah in the form of inspiration, and that these are verses, or rather, that there are verses of the Quran which speak about how they receive this. Again, I'll send you an email later on with some of the passages of Najul Balagha and some of the other hadith which speak more about this issue. And once you've reviewed them, maybe we can then plan to get together and discuss it further.
Okay, that's fair. I'll wait for your email and we'll go over those passages in Najul Balagha on my own and reach out to you if I have any questions.
Great, that sounds good. So, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss?
Actually, I have one final question if you don't mind. It's sort of controversial, so please forgive me for asking.
Not at all. In Islam, there's really no such thing as a controversial question. Everything is open to discussion. We just need to make sure that we are formulating the right question and, obviously, more importantly, asking the right person.
Great. The first thing is that if we say that the prophets, imams, and some other people have been given either direct or indirect access to knowledge of the unseen, then why don't they make use of it?
What do you mean? We've seen in the Quran that those people, or that those who had been given this knowledge had used it in various instances in their lives.
No, I understand that. However, let me be more specific and a bit blunt if you don't mind. What about Imam Ali?
What about him?
If Imam Ali really knew that he was going to be attacked on the 19th of Ramzan in Masjid al-Kufa, why did he go? Why not send someone else to lead the prayers? And what about Imam Hussein going to Karbala? Didn't he know about his outcome? I read a hadith how the Prophet even told his beloved wife, Salma, about the tragedy of Karbala 50 years before it happened. Is this not like committing suicide? I mean, they knew what would happen, and yet they still went ahead and...
So let me stop you right there. But you know what? That's a great question that you've asked. I could give you my own opinion, but let me actually share a response from one of our contemporary scholars, Ayatollah Jafar Subhani. You may have heard of his name. He's a leading commentator of the Quran. He's a jurist, a philosopher. He's an expert in Islamic theology and many other subjects. He was asked this exact same question, and I think his response will clarify the issue. So he mentioned in response to this question about, was it like suicide that the Imams did? And he says that the infallibles, these 14 infallibles that we follow, they're the leaders and the role models for the rest of humanity. And therefore, they must live a life such that they can be emulated. Now, if the prophets, he says, if the prophets or imams were to resolve the challenges in their life through tapping into knowledge of the unseen, and they were to make use of this miraculous form of guidance, then how could the people like you and I, how could we take them as role models in our lives? And how could these illustrious personalities ever encourage us to patience, to fortitude, and to struggle? Ayatollah Jafar Subhani says that someone who has been equipped with the weapon of the knowledge of the unseen, which other people have not been given, and they continuously use this to their advantage, they can never be a role model for others to follow, as they could not share the sadness, the difficulties, the tragedies, and everything else that the masses encounter in their day-to-day lives.
Okay, now I get it. So they have access to it, but they're not really permitted to use it for personal gain. That makes total sense. Before I let you go, let me summarize some of the points I gathered from our discussion to make sure that I've understood you correctly, as I'll need to go home and think about these responses.
Sure, go ahead.
So, what I've concluded from this conversation is that, number one, essentially, all knowledge is based in the realm of the unseen. Things which are unknown to the human being, however, are present around them. Number two, the knowledge of the unseen which Allah gives to His creation is limited, and He keeps certain pieces of knowledge to Himself alone. And number three, the prophets, messengers, Imams, and awliya have limited knowledge, and they only have access to this knowledge of the unseen when Allah permits it, and they are only allowed to use it in limited instances in their life.
Yeah, that's correct. You nailed it perfectly. Now, obviously, the discussion is much deeper than this. And, if you want, we can go over other proofs for this. However, I think we'll leave that for another day, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, and hopefully we can have another such discussion on another topic in the future.
Inshallah, God willing, whenever you want to talk, just give me a call and we'll set up a time to discuss.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam.